Yeah, that's really cool. I like that. I like the idea of obviously being a brand guy as well, kind of that brand experience. So like you said, when you send that book to an executive, the kind of experience they get from that wow factor of not expecting that, getting to have a look through it, it's really valuable. It's got that weight to it, it's got that design to it, like you said. It actually adds to the experience of the whole
Yeah,
interaction.
but more than that, we ship it to them and they have to sign for it.
Okay, yep.
So there's no just delivering it to a high-rise building that they work in. No, no, it's shipped to them with signature. So when that gal or that guy receives that book, someone comes to their office and they have to sign for it. It's like, what is this?
Mm.
So that experience, the brand experience, the customer experience, because the word customer service these days is irrelevant. It's the customer experience. How do you plan that journey of a customer? And the journey starts the moment your advertisement hits their eyes.
Yeah, and the CNE side of thing that you mentioned, I'm part of Action Coach, and I've got so I'm part of the Action Coach in Exeter, and Andrew, big shout out to Andrew DeGroot. But yeah, so part of that we did the CNE side of things, and it was a real eye opener, and it was a really important part of the journey of trying to find out those critical non-essentials and try and see if you could do something different, slightly different from what anyone else would think of, and that's authentic to you. And I think that was really key for me, was understanding how to create it so that it was authentic, still felt like the brand, but still had that wow factor.
Yeah, it's got to be within your brand. You can't make it look and feel like someone else and expect the customer to do it. It's got to line up, sort of thing. And a lot of companies, when I first look at their marketing, I had a company recently that was a client of Action Coach, and she has a wedding venue. And she said, Brad, I need your help. I'm not getting the right type of customer. And I said, okay, good. Send me your web link. Send me your advertising. What do you send? I take a look at the website and it looks cheap. You know, the photographs are not done by a professional photographer. They just haven't got the lighting correct. The color scheme on it, it. When I looked at it, if I was wanting an expensive wedding, I would not click the button to that site. If I wanted a cheap wedding, I'd look at that and go, yeah, this place looks like I can afford them.
Yeah,
And that whole feel to your marketing is really, really important. I think that's something that a lot of businesses don't. Let me be even more blunt, Chris. And I know it's not your listeners, but there's too many companies that don't even have enough staff in marketing to be able to do great marketing. These days, marketing is about half of your marketing expense should be in wages and half should be in advertising, because it's the wages. Like even my social media, I have a full-time person job it is to just reply. That's their job on all of our social media platforms. Their job is to sit there and go, thanks for, just reply to people, start conversations. Because what raise your hand is all about is start conversations, because conversations lead to conversions. You can't get a conversion without a conversation. So now, of course, you can if you're selling a low value product that people buy, but even high value products these days, if your website's good enough. I remember buying my Lamborghini. I literally went on the website, built the car myself, click the button, and I get a call the next day from the guy at the dealership saying, yep, well, we can start the build on that car. By the way, here in Vegas, you'll probably need to add this one thing because of the heat, and you don't need this because of the weather here. So, like, I would have, if it had been available, I would have clicked the button and entered my credit card for a deposit on the thing. I literally would have done that on the website. So remind yourself these days, Amazon has trained people to buy without talking to a human.
yeah. And do you see that step as the kind of, did that add value? That step where they called you up afterwards, did that add value to that experience? Did you feel more sort of valued as a customer as the part of that interaction?
It gave me a human being to connect with when I had any questions or had anything, and that was great in that perspective. It gave me a human being who connected me to the brand. Um, he didn't need to sell me anything, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. A lot of salespeople today have to learn to stop selling. The customer has already purchased, and you get on the phone with them and you talk them out of it, type thing. No,
Yeah.
boy. But you've also got to learn to be better at DMs, WhatsApp messages, Insta messages. You got to be very good with that stuff. And we don't automate that stuff, but we systematize it. You can have a bot do the auto responder, just saying, "Hey, it's out of hours. We'll be back to you in the next couple of minutes." As soon as someone's on site, that sort of thing. But if we're learning anything, it's almost the 24-hour day. And the great thing about globalization is I can have an 8-hour shift in 3 different locations doing that stuff nowadays. It's the globalization of what we do. There's got to be a permanent person online chatting with someone. Yeah, bots can do a little bit of it, but we systematize that languaging. We've gone through, we've tested certain languaging. If you say this, they go away. If you say this, it gets them. If they've gone away and you want to get them back, you got to write these languages. Like, I'll give everyone a hint on this one. When someone goes away and is stopped, they're like ghosting you type thing, the best message is the negative message. Hey, have you given up on? Hey, like, get them to say no. Don't get them to say yes. Get them to say no. And I think that's a really great marketing message, or a sales message in most cases, that says, say no, and no means yes.
So what are some of the biggest things that you see around misconceptions about building a business, especially today? What are some of the things that you see that are just not right?
Oh, look, buddy, we could spend years on that one. Look, the biggest challenge with building a business for most people is that they think that the product or service is the most important thing. They think what they sell is the most important thing. I have the best coffee, therefore everyone's going to come to my coffee shop for the best coffee there is. No, that's not true. Not in any way, shape, or form. You talk about the guy that was the best product guy, and you go back to Apple, and you say, okay, Steve Jobs was the product guy, but my God, he was great at marketing.
Yeah.
When you sit down, that guy was the best. There's a great book called Oversubscribed, and Steve Jobs was a brilliant genius at launching things and having people buy more of them than they had available on day one. In my books, like, I own some restaurants. Actually, I just sold one of them. But in my ideal world, I want my restaurant to have less seats and be sold out and charge more. It's like people say, oh, well, my marketing, I'm getting too many leads. Great. Then raise your prices. You want to oversubscribe. And then if you look at the watch business today, they've gotten into it. The car business today, they've understood this factor that when you produce less than your marketing creates demand for, and Tesla was the first one really to do this with the automobile business. But like Ferrari, you can't buy a Ferrari unless you've bought a few cheap, shitty Ferraris first. Then it's, sorry for the language, but
Right.
if you don't buy the cheap ones, you're not allowed to get on the list for the great Ferraris. And if you buy it and then you trade it to someone else, you're off the list at Ferrari forever type thing. So that whole philosophy. But yeah, if you think your product or service is the most important thing, you miss the whole point of what business is about. Business is building a great team that runs the business for you. Your job as the owner or the CEO is to build the people. Their job is to build the business. If you have to build all of the business and the business revolves around you, then you don't have a business, you have a job, and you work for a lunatic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Isn't it? That definition of building a profitable enterprise that can work without you is kind of like I remember that from. Yeah.
Yeah, look, ultimately, when you get into business, Chris, it doesn't make sense to go to all the risk, all the challenge of building a business and then not being able to sell it when it's finished. In too many businesses, they build it and then all they do is shut it down. And when they're done, they shut it down and it's gone. They've worked 20 years of their life and they haven't built a great asset. You can build a business that's saleable. That, I think, if we were to say, what's the biggest challenge, is that they don't understand that my job is to build a business that works without me. In other words, a business that is finished. If it's finished, I can sell it. If you still have to work there, it's not finished. If it's run by a management team and it's growing with a management team running it, and you attend the monthly board meeting type thing, then that business is finished and you can sell it to an investor. You don't have to sell it to someone because most businesses, they don't really try and sell a business. They try and sell a job, and they can only sell it to someone who understands the same skills they have to come in and run it, or they can sell it to a few of their managers sort of thing. But most businesses don't ever get sold. They get shut down. So that's the challenge.